I'm an early riser. I typically
Okay.
get up at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, so I try to get up at 5 o'clock wherever I'm in the world. I typically run about 9 kilometers. Yeah,
9 kilometers. Okay. A day. Okay. All right.
That's my standard distance. So,
Okay.
so I enjoy that. I like to run
Okay.
by myself. I don't like a lot of people say join a running club. This that. No, honestly, I go by myself. So that 1.5 hours is my personal time, and it not only physical, it refreshes me mentally. So when I turned 40, I asked myself, do I have any regrets in life?
Okay.
And the regret was I hadn't learned to play the drums
Okay.
because I was always into music. I used to always listen to a lot of music. Intuitively, I knew I could play the drums,
Okay.
but never had the opportunity.
Okay.
So I was in Singapore at that time. We had acquired Nat Steel. I was there. So I enrolled in classes and learned it for 3 years. To me, every day there's a new challenge because we are a global industry. We are a global company, but the industry is global. So every day I open the newspaper, there's something in it which impacts me directly or indirectly. So we are never short of excitement. In fact, sometimes I feel we have too much excitement, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, that keeps you going because every day is a new day. There's something new to learn.
So what is your typical day like? What time do you get up in the morning?
I'm an early riser. I typically get up at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, so I try to get up at 5 o'clock wherever I'm in the world. So, and I like to go out for a run or a walk or some outdoor or indoor physical activity.
Okay.
Typically by 5:45, I'm out either if I'm in a hotel in the gym or if I'm any of the places I'm familiar with, I go for a run.
Okay.
And normally I'm out till about 7:15, 7:30.
Okay. You run for more than an hour.
I run.
So-
I typically run about 9 kilometers. Yeah.
9 kilometers.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
A day.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
That's my standard distance. So,
Okay.
so I enjoy that, and so that's how my day starts. And normally by 9, I mean, if I'm in Europe, I'm in the office by 8 o'clock, 8:30. If I'm in India, I'm in the office by 9, 9:30,
Okay.
and then I'm there till about maybe any time between. I'll try to leave by 6:30 if I can. Otherwise, it's 7, 7:30.
Okay.
Once I get home at 8, then it's typically personal time unless there's something urgent. I like to sleep early. I like to sleep by 10 o'clock, 10:30 if I can,
Okay.
because then I'm ready for the next day at 5 o'clock. So
Okay.
I lead a fairly disciplined life from that point of view.
Okay. How many days in a month do you sort of travel for work? Is that
Maybe 15, 20 days.
okay?
I mean, this week itself.
Where do you call home?
So it's a bit of a, now it's Bombay.
Okay.
Yeah. I spend a week and a month in Jamshedpur if I can.
Okay.
But even there, I'm not staying in Jamshedpur. I'm visiting all our sites in eastern India.
Okay.
Even if I'm in Bombay, I'm traveling out of Bombay quite a bit. So, like I said, it's 15, 20 days of travel a month.
Okay. So you mentioned you run a lot in the morning. That's
Yeah.
your physical exercise.
Yeah.
What sort of exercises do you do to keep your a good mental balance?
So, actually, that's one of the reasons why I get out in the morning. That's my personal time. I like to run by myself. I don't, like a lot of people say, join a running club, this, that. No, honestly, I go by myself. I like to run by myself. I listen
It's sort
to
of
music.
meditative for you.
It's meditative for me. So I don't run with anyone. I run by myself, and I like to be by myself at that time. So that 1.5 hours is my personal time, and it not only physical, it refreshes me mentally.
Okay. Are you thinking about work during that time?
Sometimes.
Okay.
So if I have some complicated issues to think through,
Okay.
that's a great time to think through because your mind is clear. It's in the morning. If it's very complicated, then you don't realize how much you're running because you're not. When you don't have much to think about, then you start getting tired sooner than you should. So I enjoy that. That's my personal space.
Okay. What's your favorite way to relax or unwind?
I think multiple, like I said, physical activity, clearly, music, spending time with family, reading.
You play drums as well.
I do.
You still do it regularly?
When I'm in Jamshedpur, I have a kit at home, so I get the chance to play the drums when I'm in Jamshedpur. That's maybe, so on weekends, so typically maybe 2-3 times a month.
Okay.
Not more than that.
Okay. What sort of music do you listen to?
I listen more to Western music, rock, jazz, blues. So I like music in general. It's not that.
A little older stuff?
Yes,
70s,
60s, 70s.
60s,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Getting
Beatles and
introduced to
stuff?
newer stuff by my daughter, but I generally like music. So I mean, whether it's classical or jazz or Indian or Western, whatever. But most of what I listen to is Western music.
Okay. What made you want to learn the drums? I think you started at
So
40.
yeah. So when I turned 40, I asked myself, do I have any regrets in life?
Okay.
And the regret was I hadn't learned to play the drums
Okay.
because I was always into music. I used to always listen to a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
Intuitively, I knew I could play the drums,
Okay.
but never had the opportunity.
Okay.
So I was in Singapore at that time. We had acquired Nat Steel. I was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I enrolled in classes and learned it for 3 years.
What are your other hobbies?
I think, like I said, I love to read. I love to spend time with my family. I like my personal space. So whenever I can, I spend time with my family. And that's not much. They've been very supportive of my hectic life. So when I can, I like to spend time with them. And I like to read and I like to travel whenever I can. Not on work. Work travel takes me everywhere. But if I can take a break, I do that. So personal time is very important.
Okay. You mentioned travel. What is your favorite destination?
I think
Holiday.
For a holiday?
For a holiday,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think for a holiday, some of the best, I mean, at least memorable holidays, my wife Ruchi and I, and the first one was with our daughter. She was small at that time. This was in Scotland. Not the first holiday we had, but a memorable holiday.
Okay.
We drove around there. And more recently, my wife and me, we went to Norway.
Okay.
I think we like the mountains and the water, which is similar. Scotland and Norway are similar.
Okay.
So we've enjoyed that because I don't like hectic holidays. I like more relaxed holidays where you walk around, enjoy a place, enjoy the food, enjoy the culture, and not a hectic sightseeing kind of holiday. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of time to take off during
I try to take a week or 10 days off in a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
10 days off. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's pretty much the best I can manage.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite food?
For beyond Indian, I think Japanese.
Okay.
I love Japanese food. Yeah.
Did you develop a taste during your stint in Singapore?
No, the first time I had Japanese food was in Dubai. That time I didn't like it. But yes, I think it was more during my time in Singapore that I really started enjoying it.
All right.
I found it very healthy and very high quality food, particularly if it's good Japanese, it's fantastic. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any childhood experiences that shaped you?
I think many, you don't sometimes realize that it's shaping you at that point in time. But I think much later in life, you start reflecting and say, hey, what do I trace it back to? For instance, I've always been into sports and I credit my maternal grandfather for that because he was very fond of sports and I remember listening to commentary with him and he taught me to play chess and so many things. But he passed away before when I was maybe 7 years old or something. My paternal grandfather, who was a freedom fighter, he used to discuss a lot of idealism with me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my values have come from, I did not realize then, and he got me into reading a lot of stuff on the freedom movement and things like that. So I think a lot of that idealism came from his conversations with me. You didn't really realize it then, but later when you think back, and of course my parents and later my spouse and my child and my daughter and everyone has played a big role in shaping who I am. Yeah.
What all sports do you watch?
I watch every sport, so I'm really wondering why we picked today as a date.
Yeah, not the best of days.
Yeah, not the best of days. I, of course, love watching cricket like every other Indian, but I watch all sports. I used to watch a lot of Formula One earlier. I love watching soccer.
Okay.
So
Do you
Euro
support
is
a particular team?
Not really, not really. We have, of course, we have a Jamshedpur football club.
Yes,
I know Kochi is.
Do you go for matches?
Yes, in Jamshedpur I go for the matches.
Tata Steel owns the team.
That's right. So we've not been doing too well in the last 2 seasons. Of course, I watch tennis. So I like watching sports because I've always been into sports.
Luxury, convenience, and a commitment to green living. Vigaland Homes presents Biophilic Urban Homes.
In Kochi, Trivandrum, Calicut, Thrissur.
What is the best advice you've received?
Best advice I've received?
Yeah.
Lots of advice. But I think some things, not so much directly advice to me, but sometimes people say things which stick in your mind.
Okay.
So there is Deepak Jain, who used to be the Dean of Kellogg's. Once I attended a session in the Indian School of Business with him where he said, when the shadow is bigger than the man, you know the sun is going to set. So I think that was very powerful. It tells you that you need to be grounded, you need to be humble. There's this famous writer and philosopher who said that people won't remember what you said, people won't remember what you did, but people will remember how you made them feel. You know, so things like these. So it's not advice given to me, but it's advice which is very valid.
Okay.
Yeah.
You try to take in just right.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
live by-
learn from those, learn
Okay.
from the wise things other people have said.
Okay. What is your biggest fear?
I don't know. I guess it's more personal, family, losing
Okay.
your loved ones,
Okay.
feeling sometimes that you've not spent enough time with them.
Okay.
Those are the fears. Otherwise, there's
Okay.
nothing else. Yeah.
Speaking of that, what is your how do you maintain a good work-life balance?
That's always a challenge.
Yeah.
As much as I'd like to believe I do a decent job, I don't think my family will vouch for that. But I think it's, for me, you know, again, when you sign up for these jobs, it's a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
But I think the time you spend with them, be with them. I think that's the only advice I can give, because sometimes we are with them physically, but not them mentally. You know, so I'm not saying that I'm perfect in that, but I try to remind myself. So when I'm with them, I'm with them. I'm not carrying the stresses of the workplace. I'm not distracted because of that. So if I'm working, I'm working. If I'm with them, I try to be with them. I think
Do you
that's
get
important.
to switch off? Because you have plants in Thailand, you have plants in Netherlands, and then in India.
So
Is
it's
it
a yes.
24/7 really?
So that's why, like I said, typically nobody calls me after 8 in the evening unless it's something very urgent.
Okay.
Okay, then they know I'm available. But
Okay.
I also then try to say that, okay, 8 to 10 I get with the family,
Okay.
right? Because then I go to sleep. Or again, nobody calls me before 8 in the morning unless it's important. So I get that, I come back from my run at 7:30, I get half an hour, 45 minutes with the family. So I try and keep it for them, you know,
Okay.
rather than start answering emails and messages. So you have to pick those slots where you can spend quality time with the family, however little that time is.
Okay. Can you tell us about any books that you've read that have had a big impact, or one you'd recommend to people?
So I'll read a lot, but more on history, and
Okay.
I'm not so much of a fiction
Okay.
person. I love reading on history, current affairs, etc. Or
Not
in
many
terms of-
management books or such?
no,
Okay.
I used to read management books maybe 20 years back. I think
Okay.
I stopped. I'm experiencing managing books every day, so there's so much learning from my daily
Learning on
life.
the job.
Yeah, so I'm not so much into management books.
Okay.
But I think one book which I read, which left a very big impression on me, is by this professor in Harvard called Michael Sandel. It's called The Tyranny of Merit.
Okay.
And I think it's a very thought-provoking book, and I've read his other books also.
What
Makes
is
you
that
think.
about? Tyranny
So
of Merit?
tyranny of merit, you know, and I think it's very applicable for people like me who've gone to good colleges.
Okay.
We assume that we have got what we have got because of the merit that we have.
Okay.
Okay, so we think we worked hard. I went into REC Trichy. I'm Calcutta. So, but this tyranny of merit basically tells you that there may be people who are more meritorious than you. They've not had the opportunity. You know, there may be people more brilliant than you. You know, who have not got into these schools or colleges because they have other pressures. I mean, and I realize that. I see that. There are so many brilliant kids we see in Jharkhand or Odisha who are not able to make it because they don't have the support. They have to work during the day. They have to study at night. They work in places where there's no electricity, you know. So sometimes we kind of assume that we can justify all that we've got because we got it through merit. I mean, whatever I've got is through merit, through hard
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
But I should not assume that somebody else
Yeah.
may have, with the same opportunity, would have got the same thing. So that's a part. The book makes you think, and I think it's a very valid thought for all of us, particularly if you've been to the elite schools to read.
Who's the person that's had the biggest influence on you?
No single person. I think
Okay.
different people in your personal and professional lives have influenced you
Okay.
at different ways. So I wouldn't name any single person, but everyone I've worked with or had a relationship with personally, like I said, my grandparents, my parents, my spouse, my daughter, professionally, multiple people I've worked with. You see the good and bad in everyone, just like there's a good and bad in me. So you learn from the good and try to avoid the bad.
Okay. What's been the happiest moment in your professional journey?
Personal, of course, having a daughter, and my daughter has just had a baby, so I'm a
Okay.
grandparent. So
Alright.
these are, I think nothing can substitute these kind of joys.
Yeah.
For me, professional journey, of course, I'm happy with whatever I've achieved. I think what's more important is, can I make a positive difference to the people I come in contact with? That's all. I mean, yeah.
What is the most thrilling aspect of business for you? Exciting.
For me, when people ask me, how did you work in the same company or same industry
Yeah.
for 36 years? This is an
That's not very
industry.
common.
Huh?
That's not very common.
That's not common. But to
Yeah.
me, every day there's a new challenge
Yeah.
because we are a global industry. We are a global company, but the industry is global. So every day I open the newspaper, there's something in it which impacts me directly or indirectly. So we are never short of excitement. In fact, sometimes I feel we have too much excitement,
Yeah.
So for me, that keeps you going because every day is a new day. There's something new to learn.
Yeah. I think since you took over, I don't think there's been an extended period of calm.
Never.
Was that?
No, I think maybe the year we made 42,000 crore profit
Yeah.
was a good year. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
1 year, that's it.
Yeah, otherwise
That's
every
all- it's
year
all
we've
issues.
had
Yeah.
a lot of issues. So I think, but like I said, if you should expect that. So if you kind of wallowing in self-pity, saying there's so many challenges, then you shouldn't take on this job.
What has been the biggest regret of your business journey?
Business journey, I mean, you always feel, could we have done more?
Okay.
Right? See, you must also understand Tata Steel as a company is not just about the business side, it's also about the social side. We do a lot of work, CSR work, and we've done it for 100 years. So, oftentimes when you engage with the communities, you always feel that we've done so much. We do much more than the government requires us to do. But still you say, hey, could I have done more? Could I have done more? So that feeling is always there, So it won't be, it's not a regret, but it's something to say that there's a motivation to keep doing more and more.
Okay. Because it's Tata that the UK plant is still operational. If it was somebody else, they probably would have cut their losses.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our unions know that. We are currently having an issue there with one of the unions. But the heart of hearts, the people know the kind of investments we made over 15 years without having any return, nobody else would have done. Because we don't want to give up in a hurry. Even now, despite all the losses that we've had, we are saying we'll put in another 750 million so that we can create a future for the business. The government is giving us 500 million pounds, but we are putting in 750 million. So that's the Tata ethos, that you take care of all the stakeholders as much as possible, but we are a listed company. We have 5 million shareholders, so we are answerable to them also. So it's not that I can only take care of the community or the employees without worrying about what the shareholders think. Shareholders, not just Tata Group, 67% of Tata Steel is owned by institutional and retail investors. So how do you balance the different needs of different stakeholders? But even our shareholders, the non-Tata shareholders, have also been patient because they know that this is the value system of the group, and we'll try to find a solution.
I'd seen your the Welsh Affairs Committee trying to grill you. Even though they asked hard questions in the beginning and all, later towards the end they were like, we know that if it wasn't Tata, anybody else would have just run.
So there is we have a reputation which has been built over a century. So our byline is leadership with trust. So we have to build that trust, and we have to earn that trust.
Mindset is a crucial aspect of business. So how do you keep a positive mindset throughout?
I think if everyone should find their own way to build positivity. For me, like I said, the morning, when I go for a run or a walk or whatever I do in the morning, is a way for building in me a fresh and a positive mindset. So irrespective of the challenges that you had. So to me, that's one way. Music is another way. So you should find what is it that relaxes you. If it's spending time with the family, I used to have dogs before, playing with the dog, playing with my daughter when she was young. So what is it that helps you go to a positive space? For some people, it may be cooking, it may be gardening, it may be singing, whatever. You should know what is it that helps, and then practice that. And that helps you, or maybe meditation, maybe going to the temple, maybe spiritualism, whatever. Going to a church or going to the mosque or whatever. So I'm just saying that you should see what is it that brings you to a positive frame of mind, understand that, and practice that.
If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Keep backing yourself. I don't think I was as self-confident then as I could have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much for your time, sir, and wish you continued success with Tata Steel.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
That's when I realized in life you have got two choices. You can discuss or you can decide. People who discuss don't decide, and people who decide don't discuss. I decided to start my own business. See, the problem is when you have an external goal as your primary motivator, once you reach it, the energy level goes down. I fondly call parents as well-meaning negative thinkers. So our problem is only our house people. Okay, they are more afraid than the entrepreneur is already, we are facing multiple challenges. You go home only, again they will talk multiple problems.